Good evening and welcome to Beyond the Front Page, a show brought to you by CU Community College. It's shown on Spectrum, Verizon, Fios, as well as ARMA, the Auburn Regional Media Access, and Win 89.1, the college's radio station. I'm your host, Guy Cosentino. There is much talk across the region, if not the nation, about the crisis in housing. It's so many different levels about whether it's affordable, whether people can keep their homes, the lack of affordable and safe housing. And there are a number of agencies locally that are addressing this in different ways, from rehabilitation to helping seniors out to dealing with the issue of foreclosure. One such agency is Homsite, which is located on Clark Street in the city of Auburn. It deals with rehabilitation and Section 8 programs, which it administers. And we are delighted to have in the studio today Erica Ryan, who's the executive director of the agency, to talk about the programs that they have and what the situation is with housing locally. Welcome.
Thank you, Guy.
I am delighted to have you. So Homsite has come up in the last couple of shows. Somebody has mentioned it each time, and I said, you know what? I have not had Homsite on in a very, very long time, and I know you've gone through some iterations in the last 15 years.
Absolutely.
We might get to that. But for those who may not know Homsite, other than they see this beautiful building on the corner of James and Clark Street, what's Homsite?
Homsite is a community development organization that focuses primarily on providing safe and affordable housing throughout Cayuga County.
And with that, how long have you been in existence?
We've been in existence for over 50 years now. I think we just hit our 53rd year. So that was exciting. Unfortunately, we kind of hit that milestone during the COVID void. So we didn't celebrate during that time, but we look forward to in the future.
So we're going to talk about programs and housing that you have, but you're a not-for-profit.
We are a not-for-profit.
And do you have a board of directors? Who runs the agency besides you?
Yeah, we do have a board of directors. We have 9 members on our board right now. Our board is comprised of folks that we have to meet minimum obligations to serve on our board through some of our rural housing coalition.
So some are consumers?
Yes, sure.
Okay.
We have, and that's actually new to the organization, where we have consumers, we have members of the community, bankers, city planning, health department. So we really tried to get a mixed bag of board members to join the board and to lead the organization. And then we have requirements that we have to meet, neighborhood preservation sets requirements, as well as rural preservation. So we try to meet all those numbers and get a board together and move forward from there.
And Mr. Padula, who is a utility player who comes here.
Yeah.
He comes here for a number of different, is your board president.
He is,
And he's been with Homsite for at least a decade.
Multiple decades, I think,
coming in.
3
Used to be
more.
a banker, was over at the Gavra Center, and just serves a number of purposes.
He really does, yeah.
And fields. So how many employees do you have?
We have 9 employees right now. We have really scaled back on the number of employees that we had my goal was to try to get as many employees that we had to kind of all feed into different services so that everybody was aware of everything that we have going on. In the past, Homsite office was isolated into 3 separate departments, and employees really kind of stayed within their own separate departments. But the idea is that we kind of blend into one existing agency and everybody knows everybody else's jobs and the services.
So in 53 years, this might be a good time to talk about this. In 53 years, you've kind of drifted through a different set of models. It was set up originally as a not-for-profit, similar to what you are now.
Yes.
But you also, at one point, hooked up with home headquarters out of Syracuse.
Yes, we did.
And what type of services, why did you hook up with them, and then now you're separate from them recently?
We are, yeah. So actually about 10 years ago, when I was hired at Homsite, the agency was going through a transition, and the previous executive director had been with the organization.
Tom Feliccio?
Tom Feliccio had been with the organization for 30 plus years, and fairly enough, he wanted to retire. So
how dare he?
I know. I'm sure that's what the board thought too. So he began to look at the future of Homsite and what the best opportunity was out there. They tried to fill the position and it just didn't work out. So he reached out to home headquarters and they discussed kind of where they could support Cayuga County Homsite from their standpoint in Syracuse. And instead of recreating the wheel and trying to rebuild programming that had gone stagnant, they decided it was in the best interest for Homsite to affiliate with Home Headquarters, become a partnership of sorts, and grow again under their governance. So that's what they did about 10 years ago. Everything was working out great. Homesite grew in some capacities, and it got to the point where, like most agencies over the years, we all had to kind of reevaluate our programming and our sustainability and see what our futures held. Home Headquarters chose to focus more on lending and the financial aspect of things. Homesite still remains a human services agency at heart, and we really had to sit down and have some difficult conversations.
So they're not involved anymore in that?
Correct.
And that
Yeah.
change. So how long have you been executive director?
Just this past year.
Okay, so
Yeah.
it's a recent change.
Yes, it is.
For that.
Yes, I was the site director prior to that.
Okay, and one of the reasons we did not have you on before, I happened to be married to somebody who used to work with you.
That's
so,
right.
And that was most likely not appropriate to have her on, because she'd want to ask the questions versus the other way around.
That's
so,
right.
How large a budget do you have?
We are about 2.3 million right now.
And where does your money come from?
So most of it comes from grant funding, administrative expenses that we're able to bill back. Our Section 8 program that we run, we get paid a monthly admin fee to run that program. And then we have our grant funding on the home repair side of things. So all of our contracts that we have AHC contracts, restore contracts, mobile home replacement.
What's
AHC is a Affordable Housing Corporation, applies funding to Homesite and allows us to utilize that to assist homeowners with necessary repairs.
So the last 2 months, and I'm not talking about the last 2 hours with the markets, but the last 2 months have been somewhat turbulent.
Yes.
And I'm being polite for agencies when it comes to funding. So do you get a lot of federal funds?
We don't get federal funding right now.
Okay.
We're always looking at federal funding, but the state funding that we do get is a subsidiary of federal funding of some sort. So
have any effects of not necessarily Doge, but the whole process? Have you been told by state housing, hey, we got to do a couple things different at this stage?
So we really kind of worry about this every budget year or every budget season. We have great partnerships with neighborhood preservation and rural preservation, and they do all of our boots on the ground lobbying. They always have people in Albany that keep their finger on the pulse and keep us posted, sometimes hourly. In the past 2 months, it seems like it's been that. So,
well, the reason I ask, it almost seems like a barrage. So if you have a program, do you have to maintain certain criteria for it?
For sure.
Or does the money just dry up? Because I think the fortunate part for you may be that you were for at least the first quarter of this year in the state budget year, which is still in place right now until at least the end of today. Because it's always about today. It's not about tomorrow.
For sure.
So
For sure.
You've kind of been protected from old funding, but you don't. You may not know new funding, correct?
Correct. And all of our funding is in a different cycle right now. So we are in year 2 of some of our grant funding, and that seems to be a little bit more protected and less worrisome. We have just signed new contracts for funding, and of course, we like to isolate those funds and get them attached to a project quickly so that it's less likely they'll get taken away from us.
So in your particular case, do you get money in advance, or do you have to voucher for expenses already? So do you have to upfront money?
We have to upfront.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But we get the contract. So
you're comfortable once you have a contract.
We're comfortable for the most part, yeah.
Okay. So you've got a lot of great programs. If you go to the website, it's very friendly, I should say that, and it's easy to use, and you can bop around there, which I did. And so I want to ask you a couple questions about different programs because they might be people who are eligible. So you mentioned Affordable Housing Corporation, ACH.
Yes.
That's your home repair program?
It is, yes.
And so what is it?
It's our simplest pot of funding that we have available. If you are a homeowner within Cayuga County and you have some home repair needs, whether it be a water line, sewer line, roof, windows, water heater, boiler, anything really, we can apply AHC funding to your home. You've got to be income eligible. That is average is 80% of the.
Yeah, so I looked at the website and I didn't, this is me because I'm not a math person.
Yeah.
What is 80%? So is that based on whether you're 1 or 2 or 3 or 4? Okay.
Yeah, so
what's the average household? What do you think?
50,000.
50,000, okay.
Yeah.
So 80% of 50,000 or 50,000?
50,000 is the 80%.
Is
right around
the,
that number.
okay.
Yeah.
So in that, are there any other eligibility requirements besides the income issue?
So there are some things that we have to pay attention to. We have to make sure that your home is insured. We have to make sure that you're up to date on your taxes, your water bills.
So you won't pay back taxes and things like that?
We won't, no.
Okay.
Every once in a while, we'll see a niche amount of funding that the state pushes out. We did for COVID, where we were able to assist homeowners during that time with back taxes. But for the most part, we rarely see programs like that.
So you have on the website a list of all the types of products. You mentioned water lines.
Sure.
I know you do step repair, porch repair, window replacement, furnaces, electrical items like that. Is that your staff doing that, or do you farm it out?
We farm it out.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
so
was
we'll
going to say
bring
with
in-
10 people, you might not be able
Yeah,
to.
no, I wish.
Not getting up on a roof?
Yeah, no. I wish we could at times
Okay.
because it's not always easy to, find contractors, but
Well, because the smaller the project, the tougher. It's
Very
almost
much so.
inverse to what you would think. Smaller the
Absolutely.
project, tougher to find a contractor to do this.
Absolutely.
So the average project, give me, so first of all, geography-wise,
Sure.
are most of your projects in the city of Auburn? Are they outside the city of Auburn? Is it a mix?
We have a mixed bag. So we always have funding available for the city and the county.
Are they two different pots?
Sometimes there
Oh,
are.
they are, okay.
Yeah, sometimes, depending on the funding source that we apply to. But we try to make sure that we've hit both markets. So if we're looking for something in the city, if we can, we expand it to the county-wide, even if we spend it all in the city.
Okay.
Or if we have to apply separately, we'll do so and make sure. Like mobile home replacement is obviously something that we'll only ever deploy in the county. We don't have mobile homes in the city of Auburn, so that's an easy one. If we are partnering,
And what does that, we'll come back to the
Sure.
repairs in a second. So on the mobile homes, what does that cover?
So that's one of my favorite programs that we have, and it's a nightmare to run, but it is a program where we are able to isolate dilapidated mobile homes where families are living. The families own the land that it's on, so there is value in their home and within the land or
So do you
the
replace the
property.
whole mobile home, or do
replace
you
the
repair
entire
it?
thing. No, we demolish the existing and we bring in a brand new one.
I don't know enough about mobile homes, so
Yeah.
inform me. How much is an average mobile home?
These days, about $100,000.
Okay.
But that's the tip of the iceberg. Typically we have to go in, we have to do ground disturbance. The amount of environmental that we have to put into each one of these properties is insane. So
So it's not a $100,000
it's
project.
probably a $200,000 project.
How many
close
do you
to.
think you do a year?
Last year, we only did 2. The other 2, we had caught up with some environmental concerns. This year, we'll do 4 or 5. And then we also have another contract where we'll do 4 or 5 next year.
And is there a specific geography outside the city of Auburn where you see a high concentration?
So we did something unique this time around when I knew that we would have 3 contracts back to back, and we utilized the county real services or real property services, and we had them send flyers out to all property owners where a manufactured or mobile home was present. We're not
Is that a lot?
Yeah, it's actually more than you would realize. We see a lot down near Moravia, Venice area, and then again up in Cato. So it's kind of split between the north and the south of our county.
I was trying to think where I drive through and I see some out in Aurelius, but
Yeah.
if you're in Moravia in that area, or you're up in the north
Yeah.
part of the country, it's usually in the Cato area where
Yeah.
Ira and that. So how long is your waiting list for something like that?
Oddly enough, we don't have a very long waiting list because we try to get applications in and determine their eligibility right from the get-go. So otherwise, but the program itself if once I deem a project eligible, it can take almost 2 years to get that house in there.
And this is separate, God forbid, but we do see this in the South, and we've seen it with the weather changing,
Yeah.
tornadoes, and this is not when somebody's house has been wiped out. This is when a member of your staff reviews an application, goes to the site and says, listen, we need to replace this.
For sure.
Are they mainly families? Are they couples? Are they
The
ones
first
with children?
season,
Yeah.
the first round we did, we had, oddly enough, they were all seniors, and half of them were inpatient, unable to come home because of accessibility needs.
Oh, okay.
So that was perfect. This time around, it's families with young children, and we're seeing a lot of mold.
Mold, okay. Going back to the Affordable Housing Corporation, I know Deanna Ryan is on,
Yeah.
no relation?
No,
No, she's on one of your boards, because
Yep.
you have several. She's with the health department. She was mentioning mold the other day, and that's how you came up, not because
Yeah.
of mold, but because of that. The issue of Homsite, do you have a lot of, does the Affordable Housing program, does that deal with mold issues as well?
we can.
Okay.
We can.
Because that can get expensive.
That's the problem. That's
Okay.
the problem. So the Affordable Housing Corporation, that grant is technically a match grant. So we provide 60% of the funding. We require the homeowner to provide 40%.
Oh, okay.
We get strategic with that. We have additional funds that we can apply as their 40%. We can go to the city of Auburn and see if planning would maybe be willing to apply some of their CDBG
And I think
money.
Tiffany Beebe is on your board as
She
well?
is as well,
Okay.
yeah.
And-
So there's ways around it, but we do get into mold. Again, whenever we have environmental concerns, so much gets eaten up in the testing and the eradication of it that we don't have a lot left to provide results that we need.
And are you dealing with accessibility issues as well?
We can.
You can, okay.
Yeah, we can.
So the average project, think of something you've done in the last year. This is common. What'd you do in House A?
So in House A, we would go in and replace a roof. In the fall, we'll probably do 15 to 20 furnaces. You know, we have people that come in, they go to turn their furnace on for the season.
It's
and
always mid-October?
That's
and
right. It's not working.
It's not working, okay.
We'll do, I would say, 10 to 15 water heaters a year. Those are emergent for most people. It just happens quickly and they need some assistance. Roofs are big, but we are getting into some new programming with some lead, which is what Deanna was probably referring to.
So yeah, so she said one of the big issues that we have, and we've done several shows on lead
Mm-hmm.
over the last couple of years. Kathleen Cuddy's been in here because of her position. So you work in this area. How big a problem is lead right now?
It's a big problem, and the scarier part is that many people they're not aware of how big of a problem it still is.
So what type of work will your agency do? What will Homsite do?
So what we have been, I sit on the lead task force with Deanna, with the health department, and the biggest issue that we see are children being poisoned in homes that are non-owner occupied. So we know the city of Auburn rental
High
stock.
rental, over 50%.
Absolutely, and it's all older homes. They're all built pre 1980. So we're seeing there's lead in all of these homes.
So where does the money come from because this can be expensive?
Yes.
So
very
where does the money
expensive.
come from?
So HUD always has funds available. We've never really applied for those funds yet because it has to come from either the city side or the county side, and neither had the availability to apply. So we're starting now with these funds that the health department is providing. The health department
County
issued
health
the
department.
county health
Okay.
department. Yep, which came from the state level.
Okay.
So they issued an RFP. We're partnering with them, and we are going to deploy these funds for the health
In
department.
any geographic area, or is it countywide?
It's 13021 plus a small area. So we're going to work with the city of Auburn a little bit outside. It's specific to units where a child has had elevated lead levels. So we're going to be getting these referrals directly from the health department.
And can it go to an owner-occupied
It
property?
can.
Okay.
Sure.
So one of the items I noticed on your website, which I thought was interesting, and correct me on this if I'm wrong, it doesn't necessarily mean that the child spends overnight there. They could be a caregiver, usually a family
Absolutely.
member, I'm thinking a grandparent or something like that. That could qualify as well, correct?
Absolutely.
Going back to last question on the repair program, what's the biggest project you have ever done?
Well, actually, it's been longer than a year. We had a family that came to us with this problem exactly. It was a 3-generation family. The youngest child in the home, it came up with high lead levels. We went into the home and found lead-based paint exposed. So the child was actually being poisoned within the home. But there were larger issues. We couldn't go in and take care of the lead issues because the roof was leaking. So we started with the roof.
So it cascades.
Of course, right.
Okay.
So we can't, we can't encapsulate paint on the inside of the home if it's just going to be redamaged because of water damage. Replaced the roof. During that time, the boiler went. We replaced the boiler.
So how much does a project like this cost?
That project itself probably was upwards of $60,000.
Okay.
60, 70.
And does that wipe out a large portion of your funding?
That not really. In that case, we lucked out because we had so many different pots of money that we pulled it from. So we were grateful, and we were able to move forward. And
so you also have a program called Restore.
We do.
All cap levels. What is that program?
That program is specific to seniors within Cayuga County that have emergency home repair needs. So if a senior is still in their home trying to maintain their home, if they need accessibility updates, window repair, roof repair, furnace, water heater, any kind of an emergency
Rails
repair.
and a bath.
Anything, for sure. We'll try to make it work.
And you'll cover that, and it's only for seniors.
That one is seniors over the age of 60 years old.
And then all countywide?
Yes.
And where's the money come from for that?
New York State.
So you also, if this wasn't enough to deal with lead and Restore and mobile homes and repairs, you also do rental management, correct?
We do.
Obviously, I know where your office is, 60 Clark Street. There are some units there. How many units do you have at your offices?
So we have a variety of units. Right at 60 Clark Street, we are one of the only single-room occupancies that remain in New York State. We have 60 Clark Street is a big old historic building. It's on one side is residential. We have 9 individual bedrooms for women only, and then they share common areas such as bathroom, library, living room, kitchen.
And I know you have properties outside of the city of Auburn, which we'll get to. Do you have other ones in the city?
We do. So Homsite Fund Inc., which is one of our affiliate agencies, has properties on James Street and Westlake Ave. And there's about 10 units of 2- and 3-bedroom units.
So that's outside of the 9 at your residence? Okay.
Yep.
And so you also own other property outside the city of Auburn, right?
We do.
Where?
Yes. One in the village of Cayuga and one in the village of Weedsport. They are each senior housing complexes with 24 units of senior housing.
And how new are they?
They were built in the late 1990s.
Okay.
We just did a big overhaul rehab at the village of Cayuga complex. So that is as new as it can be.
And how many units overall between the two?
48.
And to go into those units, what are the qualifications for those?
Sure. So we serve a population of seniors that are at or below 88% of the area median income as well. We have to be sure that they are over the age of 62 for Cayuga, and then over the age of 60 for Weedsport. And aside from that,
Why is it different between the two?
different funding.
Okay, all right.
Nothing can be easy.
Nothing can be easy. And do you have a waiting list for these?
We do.
So how
Yes,
long
we
is your
do.
waiting list for?
It's actually not long. We are going through a pretty lengthy wait list right now because we waited our project in Weedsport. We had 6 vacancies, but we wanted to do a complete rehab on all 6 units, including a flooring. So we've had vacancies for quite a bit while we got that done. So we're going through probably a 1.5-year wait list right now that will dwindle down to nothing and start fresh.
So one of the bigger programs, we're going to leave the largest program maybe that most people are familiar with is the Section 8 program.
Yes.
So what is Section 8?
Section 8 is our Housing Choice Voucher Program, which is a rental subsidy program that we manage throughout Cayuga County.
And how does it work?
So we have an extensive wait list for that program. You come, you apply for our wait list if you're in need of...
It's getting longer this year because we'll get to in a second.
Yes.
But it's a long wait list. So
Yeah.
if I'm a consumer,
Sure.
I walk into, do I have to walk into?
You don't. You
Okay.
can give us a call. We can send you the
Okay.
application and you can access it on our website.
Okay, so I come in and what do you need to know from me to qualify for Section 8 housing?
So the only thing we need to know is you need to fill out an application and you need to provide proof of address. At that point, you just go on our wait list. There's no qualification for our wait list.
So once I qualify and once I'm in the program, is it a list of specific properties I can go to, or can I go to XYZ landlord and say I want to rent and I'm going to get, do they get a voucher or do they get, but does payment go directly to the landlord?
So they get a voucher just so that the landlord knows that there is funding that is set aside for these folks.
But do they expect the check from the tenant or from you?
No, we will pay the landlord directly through direct deposit.
And does a landlord have to qualify?
The unit has to qualify.
Okay.
So the unit itself has to pass an HQS inspection, which is a minimal health and safety inspection.
No lead?
No, well, yeah, right, exactly. There's going to be lead. We don't want to see any lead risk.
Okay.
So we don't want to see any chipping, peeling, flaking. But we do a visual inspection on that. If we see any concerns of that, we will require the landlord to have it tested and prove that there is no lead risk.
And the number of vouchers that you have out right now?
Right now, we're right around 450.
And how does somebody sign up? Forget that they're going to go on a wait list for a second, but how does somebody sign up?
They just fill out an application.
And so there's been a moratorium recently imposed for 2025. Last time I looked at my watch, we're in the 92nd day of the year. So there's a lot more to go, to roughly 200 and
unfortunately
something. Why the moratorium right now?
There's been a lot of changes with the state Section 8 program. So Section 8 is a HUD-derived program. Ours specifically is filtered through New York State. Auburn Housing Authority has the same program that's HUD direct. So there's a little bit of a variation there. When the state got involved, they made some changes to the program. One of their changes was to implement a whole new computer system that they wanted us to utilize. From what we can understand and the minimal information we've gotten is basically the budget's been overspent and we need to kind of right the ship. So until then, no new...
The state of New York, not Homsite.
Not Homsite, yeah.
And so with all of that, come January 1st, 2026, depending upon a whole lot of other factors, do you expect that the 450 will increase?
We're hoping.
So when you started, how many? Do you remember how many vouchers were?
Over 600.
Okay, so why does it fluctuate? Is it based on need? Is it based on?
It's never based on need because we have a 3-year wait list minimum.
So right now you have.
Yeah.
So if somebody comes in and says, I want to get on the list, they're looking at 2028.
Easily.
Okay.
It's probably higher than that.
Okay.
But we purge it every year and then we kind of reevaluate things. This is the first time in history.
So explain when you say purge.
So when we purge the wait list, we go through every applicant on the wait list and we contact them and check to see if they're still in the area, in the need, and available. They send us an update form, they go back on the wait list.
So 2 final questions. Why is there no E in Homsite?
You know, Barb Lamphere is on the hook for this one, and I've asked her.
Long time employee.
I shook her down for this information. We had a trip to Lake George not long ago, and we were in the car for plenty of time. So I wanted this information, and she said it was simply an error, and the attorneys didn't want to go back and create more paperwork.
Darn attorneys, okay.
Exactly.
Bigger question, last question. As you look at housing right now, locally and in the region, and when I say region, I'm including all of Cuyahoga County.
Sure.
What do you think the biggest challenges you have right now as an agency, but also when it comes to need?
Yeah, so we need more affordable housing across the board. We need affordable housing that's also safe. So it's not just about chopping up these larger places and creating a bunch of smaller units. It's about making sure that what we do provide is safe for families to live in. We can always, build new complexes, but I think most of us in conversations that we're having, we're all leaning toward looking at the existing zombie properties and vacant properties and looking at ways that we can rehab those and get them back on the market.
And that comes with an expense.
Of course.
And time.
Of course.
Our guest has been Erica Ryan, the Executive Director of Homsite, without an E.
That's right.
And we want to thank you for coming on, talking about your agency, and maybe we can do a larger panel on just what the housing needs are and what each of you see with several people we've mentioned already.
Sure.
But if you would like to know more about Homsite, please go to their website. It's full of information about other programs that we didn't even get to cover today. We'll be back on Tuesday with 2 back-to-back shows. Donna Lamb of the Schweinfurth Art Center, again, another neighbor of yours in that zone, will be here, as well as Auburn's new police chief, Matthew Androsco, who will be in here to talk about his goals for the Auburn Police Department and for himself, and where things go from there. Next Thursday, we expect to have Mayor Jimmy Giannantino in for a update on the city, and Jesse Klein will be in to talk about Auburn Downtown's Business Improvement District and what is going on and what we can look forward to in summer. Believe it or not, even with the weather being crazy, summer is just around the corner. If you'd like to send us your ideas for future guests or questions, you can send them to cozguytho@aol.com. I'm Guy Cosentino for Community College. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you back here in the studio on Tuesday.